Good morning.
Good morning.
Today is the feast of what we call the most precious body and blood of Christ. We've just gone through Lent and Holy Week, the resurrection, ascension, and Pentecost, the coming of the Spirit, and how important that is to us in the life of the church. But on Holy Thursday, we were so focused on the events of Holy Week and Christ's death that we kind of neglect a little bit on that particular night the idea of the Eucharist. In ancient times, their view of life in a human being, in an animal, was that life was centered in the blood. Sounds strange. But if you remove the blood, the life is gone. And that's quite obvious. If you don't have any blood, you certainly can't function. And when they sacrificed an animal to God or the gods, if they were pagan, they would put the animal on the altar and let the blood flow out of the animal down the altar into the ground. And then they would either share the animal as food or cut it up and consume one part with fire and share the other part with food. And on that night of Holy Thursday, Christ, in offering the Eucharist, was thinking of the idea of sacrifice in ancient times. And when he offered his body and blood, he was talking about offering food and blood being life, his life, for all to share, under a symbol that is very common to everybody, bread and wine. We know the Spirit has come and enlivens each of us. We received him in baptism. We received him in confirmation. He lives in the church. He keeps the church going as a going entity throughout history. It helps the church adapt to the times, adapt to people, to understand what's going on in the world and continue Christ's message. But remember, Christ also said, I will be with you till the end of time. And he is in the Eucharist. That night, at that meal, he shared his body and blood as a special food. A food for the journey, like manna foretold in the desert, that kept them alive the 40 years that they roamed in the desert before the Jews entered into Israel. And that is what his body and blood is to us today. It is our manna, our food for the journey that is going to take us to our eternal Father. We not only have the Spirit enlivening and helping us, we have the very body and blood of Christ available for us to consume, to pray to have within us as often as we care to come to his table. So today, as we share the body and blood of Christ, let us give thanks that we have this food. Let us give thanks for each other and the fact that as a community we come and share, that we look at this table as what it is, a common table to eat. The early church in the first century, when they celebrated Eucharist, they did it at a dinner. That became cumbersome as numbers grew. But still, there are remnants of having a meal. And that's what we're having now, a very special meal, the body and blood of Christ. Let us remember finally to not neglect God the Father when he appeared at Jesus' baptism, when he said, "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him. He's within our hearts."